Welcome into the Marvel Stuff podcast. I'm your host, Josh Kennedy from Facebook, and we're here to talk about Marvel stuff, and all those good things. I hope you guys are excited. Doing a little bit of a crossover here. I'm going to take over the whole episode, and we're just going to talk about Spider-Man.
Actually, we're going to talk about Star Wars stuff like we always do. And
Bummer.
that is Mr. Kennedy from the Marvel Stuff podcast.
He's like, oh.
We might have a little bit of Marvel stuff.
Yes.
You never know.
Hey,
And then also just let you know that it may get confusing because we do have two Joshes on this podcast.
Hello.
From different universes. One from Marvel, one from Star Wars. So
Yes.
Yeah.
The multiverses combining. Yeah.
Yes.
But-
I'm the Josh Anderson. We have the Josh Kennedy on the Marvel stuff.
And I'm the David.
And I am the only Colin.
All right.
I don't
Understandable.
think that's true. Colin Farrell might disagree.
Fight to the death. All right.
All right. Well, there you go.
So yeah, we got a bunch of Halcyon Star Cruiser news that Colin wants to cover. So take it away, Colin.
Sweet.
Okay, so this week marks the pre-launch for the Halcyon. There have been a lot of different a lot of social media influencers, TikTokers, stuff like that. Hello, Liam. Just let you know, we are going to be coming to live comments. So if you hear us kind of going back and forth and answering stuff, that's why. But yeah, so there has been. Not everything has been shown yet. Apparently, the social media influencers will be able to post everything on Friday.
Yeah, the embargo lifts on Friday. Yes.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. So all of that will be lifted, and we'll truly see what the Halcyon is like, and we'll no longer be seeing trailers. We'll be able to see mostly everything. And they also dropped a sneak peek of some of the merchandise they are dropping, including a new lightsaber. That is exclusive to Halcyon guests only, as far as it sounds like. And some other costumes and stuff that people can, and outfits that people can buy
Question
for
for
Halcyon
you.
guests.
This lightsaber, is it going to be attached to a Jedi or Sith that hasn't shown up yet? Or is that
We have
just
no
kind of
idea.
an
We don't
exclusive?
know yet, which is
We have
also
no
a
idea.
very,
Like, no
very
joke, it just
interesting
dropped a
thing.
couple of hours ago.
Very cool. Yeah, well, that's exciting then, to say the very
Yeah.
least.
All the lightsabers that we have that at Galaxy's Edge actually do come with like a case, and it's got a little symbol on the front, kind of like. So you have like Luke's one, I believe, is the rebel symbol on the front, and it's green. But this one actually has the Halcyon logo on it, and it's on the actual little button you press to open up the case, which is very interesting. I want to know more about this lightsaber. Looks very interesting.
Yeah. And something great about the Halcyon too is that there's so much history. Like that happened on the cruiser, like stuff in the Clone Wars happened there. Han and Leia are going to be getting married there in a new comic coming out, which is
Yeah,
that's
honeymooning,
interesting.
right?
That's
Yeah.
interesting. Honeymooning.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that has happened on that cruiser that we don't even know yet, and there's so much history that we don't know yet. And the great thing about the cruiser is that there's so much history to cover, so there can be new content in the future that will just kind of add to it. And what's nice about the cruiser is that it adds more to your immersiveness if you're planning on going to Galaxy's Edge as well. So your whole thing is just nothing but Star Wars 24/7, and you're in the story. And that's what I found very intriguing about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that new R2 unit as well. It's based off the one that they've shown from all the promotional images. It's like a blue and gold one. So I'm pretty interested in seeing that one. So those are going to be two exclusives that you can get on board. It's going to be pretty interesting to see those two. Trying to think if there's anything else that we saw those new costumes, the ones that you can get. Are those the ones that you can get from Shop Disney?
Yeah, that's kind of old news, but they kind of put more of a highlight on it because we've seen some of those before. They have like the Ahsoka headpiece you can get and Padme's cape and everything.
I almost said a purple lightsaber joke.
Yeah, we don't actually know what color it is, which is
we do.
Here's the thing: is that it almost always has matched. The button has almost always matched up with whatever color it is. So on the case that you open up, the button is almost always matched the color.
Yeah. What color is it?
It's blue.
Okay. It's blue. Okay.
And it does look like one of those ones that's like a blue lightsaber.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Obi-Wan's old lightsaber.
There's also a symbol on it too that at first I thought it looked like an arrow actually pointing to the button, like to activate the saber, and I was like, wait, what? But then I looked closer and it looked like a symbol, and I was like, okay. So
I hope he was smart enough to turn on his own lightsaber. I don't think he needs directions.
Like, is this the button? But yeah, so there, and the embargo is being lifted on Friday, so we'll be seeing a bunch of like actual like footage and stuff from different influencers and probably different celebrities. So stay tuned for that. But just more Star Wars and more content is exciting. I mean, how do you guys feel about it?
I was
I'm a big
actually
fan of
on
new content.
TikTok a little earlier, and it looks like some of those influencers have broken the embargo because some videos have leaked. So
Naughty.
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. I had heard about that.
Blacklisted.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
pretty
don't know
much
exactly
that'll
who.
happen to you. Yeah, if you go ahead and do that.
But yeah, I did see a picture of that lightsaber, and I know you don't like it, Colin, but I thought it was decent looking. It didn't look like anything else we kind of have seen. It
Oh,
looked
no,
more
n-
mechanical.
No, I'm not bashing it. I'm more like it's interesting. It was not what I expected. And it's also interesting that it's exclusive, just like the droid as well. And I believe they have like other different like exclusives as well that like I think they have like a magic band or something too, right, Josh?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
I believe that's what they're showing off in this. I can go
Yeah.
and check. Yeah, but the lightsaber is the main one that they're showing off right now, and most people are
Yeah.
getting really excited for that one.
Yeah, the biggest question I get is, can you buy that brand new lightsaber that they showed off on Instagram like a year ago that like retracts out of the hilt?
I don't think that's going to be
purchasable.
Yeah.
It's meant mostly for show, because I feel like it's one of those ones that's just so fragile that like you
Mhm.
couldn't just sell that willingly and have someone break it. And then with Disney, they'd just be immediately come back and be like, "Can I get a new one?" or "Can I get my money back?" And I feel like that would
Yeah.
produce way more problems than it would be worth. I think they also like said how much it costs to actually make it, and it was way too much for them to justify being like making them at mass
Yeah.
production.
But at the same time, you
that
also
makes sense.
remember that they have the giant R2 units that you can buy as well for
Mhm.
like 25K. I
They
think.
don't sell them anymore on our side. I believe.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't believe they sell them anymore on our side. Yeah, they definitely did have them originally. I remember those, but every time I've been back to Droid Depot lately, I haven't seen the sign for it or any news about it. One of the very interesting things about that new lightsaber is, so you know how recently they've had the Lothcat head and the Rancor head that you can get at the creature stall that you can screw into the bottom of your own custom made one?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to have that for the new lightsaber, but you're going to be able to personalize it with, you can select a letter in Airbrush and basically put it on that new lightsaber.
Oh, I
So-
didn't know that.
Yeah, pretty cool, right?
Huh.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to add some more like customizing options that are outside of Savi's workshop, instead of having to go to Savi's workshop to be able to customize your lightsaber, but you're going to be able to find more options to be able to customize that lightsaber throughout Batu and maybe on the Star Cruiser as well. I think
I
that
would
would
like
be
more
pretty interesting.
options.
Yeah.
I would like more options, like and something else that I'm trying to think if they do is where you can go in and like, so let's say you go through the Savvy like actual lightsaber workshop experience, right? Like you go through it and you like choose exactly how you want your saber to build. Can you go back and buy more parts and then throughout actually like change of what your saber looks like and just buy separate parts?
Oh yeah, that's
when it
definitely something that I'm really interested in seeing.
Okay. Well, right, but I'm curious if they do it though, because of I think that would be a really cool thing like to do, because of throughout a Jedi's journey, as they change, sometimes their lightsaber changes too. So that would be a really cool.
That would be
element
very cool
to actually like bring into it.
You also saw some of that new, some of the new merch as well. So it was the Halcyon bag, Halcyon little journal book, and the new pen as well. So that was pretty cool and interesting to see. The costume things, it's still very interesting to me that I really like the Halcyon designed costumes just for the Halcyon, like that's their theming. But it's very interesting to me that we are getting costumes that are taken from different eras of Star Wars, and they're putting it there. Like, I wonder if they're going to try and tie that into the story because we have like the Organa, and then like it's they're all themed to different parts of Star Wars, and I thought that would just be like these costumes would be themed directly to the Starliner. It's very interesting that they're like, hey, this is Padme's cloak.
Right.
Like that's very interesting to me. Like they did it like that instead of just making something that you can only get on the Halcyon, or it's themed just to the Halcyon.
Well,
or
and something else would like that. For example, so technically Padme is connected to the Halcyon because of in one of the new comics, Padme and Anakin are there, and Anakin is fighting. He is fighting Ventress.
Yep.
So that honestly makes sense. But then there's other elements where, like, maybe they haven't, made a story yet that involves like some of the like things that we dropped because of there's like costumes that we've never seen before, and then there's some stuff that is like actually connected to like
I've seen the costumes that haven't seen before, and then the new ones that are connected, and they're actually, what's very interesting to me is they are very okay priced. Like I was looking at the prices of those, and I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
If I wasn't staying on there, I would 100% go ahead and purchase these. These are like not nearly as expensive as I had originally thought they were going to be.
As long as these new costumes look better than the Halloween costume I got when I was 10 with the stone cold plastic head face of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Hey, those costumes were like our pastime, man. Like I remember like right before Revenge of the Sith came out, I remember for Halloween I ended up getting like the Halloween costume for Anakin Attack of the Clones. My mom got me like a training braid where like I could like attach to my hair, and I was like, this is cool, man, I'm a Jedi. And then then like I realized growing up, I was like, that was so cool, and like I wish that I appreciated it like then like I do now, like of all these cool costumes and stuff, because now wearing costumes and stuff and going to conventions is a cool thing. That didn't used to be the case. Like that never used to be the case.
I'm just saying that Obi-Wan costume specifically was just a plastic version of Ewan McGregor's face that you put over your own face, so it just looked ridiculous. I could have just painted on a beard.
Beautiful.
Right, but you also have to remember the old costumes that they had like back in the 70s and 80s, though, because of for the most part it was like garbage bags, like actual garbage bags that you would have, and then you would have like like a really bad like plastic looking face, because of it wasn't just those costumes, it was other not non-Star Wars costumes. But I remember there was like an Uncle Sam one where it was like a garbage bag that like had like different American things, and it was like Uncle Sam's face, and then like the American hat on top, and it was just a plastic mask.
Age of cosplay. That's what's really bringing us the improvements on the costumes for
Speaking
Halloween
of like interesting cosplay elements, what did you think about the head tails that they were showing?
My wife has a lot to say about those, but
I don't doubt that. So I'm very interested to see how that plays out. If it's something you can purchase, or this is like a thing that they like allow you to rent out on board. I'm
curious on how they're made. Yeah, I'm really curious on how they're made, because of from the pictures, it looks great. It looks great, and it's hard to make those type of things because of right now my wife is working on Ahsoka season 7 of Clone Wars for her costume. And she's on a huge wait list to get her headpiece for it from someone on Etsy. So I'm really curious on how Disney made theirs compared to how other people make it more screen accurate.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely one of those. It's very interesting. It's Ahsoka's head tails, which is interesting. I don't know if they haven't shown if there's any other colors. Like I know Gaia's ones are different, but I don't know if you can get the same color like purple ones that she has. But they definitely had the Ahsoka ones, so that's pretty interesting. Yeah.
And you guys mentioned a droid you could buy as well, right?
Yeah, so the droid from the promotional like images that they've had so far is like an R2 unit. So the same ones that you can go ahead and build over at was it Mubo's one, like Droid Depot?
Droid Depot.
That one is going to be available on board from what we can see from promotional images now. It's like the blue and gold of what do you call it? Of the actual Starliner. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah, very, very interesting. They also, yeah.
All right, but the real question is, will there be a Star Wars cameo in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness? Is what I want to know.
Honestly, probably, to be honest with you.
I'd be pumped about it.
No, but no, like, I mean, I'm very intrigued because it's more canon. And every time that we get more canon to Star Wars, it's enticing because sometimes they can retcon stuff, which is a other topic I want to talk about. Do you think that maybe that if something happens on the cruiser or and storyline wise, that it could kind of maybe retcon something, like because of we know that like the TV shows and the movies always retcon any of the books, the comics, and the novels and stuff like that.
It'll be very interesting, and I'm sure it's a Disney thing where they're trying to figure out how the canon is going to fit, because we know that our land is very canon, whereas the one in California for their Marvel stuff isn't canon. So it's very interesting seeing the difference on how they're trying to tiptoe around keeping as much in canon as possible, and changing around some new things. But we do know that the Star Cruiser is going to stretch many different generations, and we're going to see a lot more of it intersecting with a lot of the canon that we do love, which will be very interesting. Whereas I think that they could do something like this over in California for Marvel's side and be able to go a little bit more weird and crazy with it, because they don't have to stay necessarily a part of canon.
We talked about this a little bit, not the ride specifically over on the Marvel stuff, but the idea that Star Wars is a lot more attached to canon because it's got such an established history.
Yeah.
But Marvel in itself, if we're talking MCU, it starts in 2008 with Iron Man, the first one. So the fan base kind of treasures the idea of Star Wars products or rides being part of their ultimate canon, but that's not as important to the Marvel fan base, from my impression. That is
right. And something else that's changing with Marvel too is that now you're adding the multiverse into it. So now a lot of things that weren't canon are now canon.
Yeah.
Because of now, if you go back and you're like, oh hey, there are the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. Technically, those are those are canon to the MCU now. And the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies are canon. And now there's a chance that the X-Men movies are going to be canon. The Fantastic Four movies are going to be canon. There's like so many things now that are just getting added to the MCU. Now that's like it's not even going to be the MCU anymore. It's going to be the not the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's going to be like the Marvel Multiverse Cinematic Universe.
How would you guys feel about having a multi-universal event in Star Wars?
That could happen. And the reason why I'm saying it could happen, because of in Rebels, there is like no joke. Dave Filoni just doesn't introduce something just to introduce something. Like I mean, like, hey, it's here, move on.
If you're talking about like them, crossing dimension, that
I'm talking about world between worlds, where Ezra travels back in time and saves Ahsoka.
Technically, it's already happened in Star Wars. It's just nobody really talks about it.
Right.
It's not something that happened in live action. So a lot of casual Star Wars viewers.
Yeah, Ahsoka's series, her what is it, like the logo for it shows off all the same kind of symbols.
Right.
So I'm like, how cool would it be if like the Ahsoka series was just Ahsoka just jumping through different timelines and just kind of leaving the glory days?
That would be great.
That would be crazy of seeing that live action.
Pushing it on season 1 of that show, though, dude. You gotta save that. Wait till your ratings drop in season 6. Then you start doing crazy stuff.
Okay, first off, you are talking about the show that had Mandalorian, like Mando, steal the show from the Book of Boba Fett. Like
That's different than multiverse hopping, though.
I don't know. You are
It would be
also
definitely a giant event because we definitely have a kind of like a Clone Wars and like book fans and those kind of EU fans, and we're just getting to this live action expanded universe for these new people. Jumping so far ahead and being like, yo, there's actually like time travel in different dimensions would blow some minds, and I would love to see that, but I don't see it in as near of a future as we think.
right. And as so our good friend our friend Patrick was like, hey, you know, that would be crazy if it happens. And then we got Joseph Jansen that says, I don't want that I don't want that. Well, honestly, I could see it happening because of they are looking new ways to kind of twist like the story of Star Wars, because of now they're done with the sequels. Like they're done with it. They probably want to add more to the actual timeline besides the Galactic Star Cruiser that's coming out. It's not like episode 10 is coming out anytime soon. So right now they're like focusing on the Mandalorian timeline.
Question.
And
do you think it's
and the Galactic Civil War? No,
I'm sorry, do you think it's okay? Do you think it's necessary to do like a multiverse thing? Because the idea of Star Wars is just this ever expanding universe. So couldn't you just be like in a distant part of an untouched galaxy by Jedi or this, that, or the other thing? Wouldn't that be a way to handle it without having to completely reboot or introduce the idea of a multiverse?
I remember watching, and actually, you know what? The new Lego holiday special that came out like a year ago is 2 years ago is a prime example of why it would be nuts. Because in that holiday special, Rey honestly goes through some of the most major, like,
oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's
like the most, and the most major like events that happen in Star Wars history, and then all of a sudden, like they're all in Tatooine, and you've got, you know, Darth Maul from Phantom Menace, and like he's cut in half, and he's just, you know, kind of hopping he's just kind of hopping around, and then you got like 3 versions of Obi-Wan, and different versions of Solo, and just all this like craziness. And that actually kind of put it in your head, like, you know, if they did this, it would be crazy. And, you know, but doing it live action, I could see it as her just jumping from time to time, because that scene in Rebels where Ezra, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Star Wars Rebels, but where the scene where Ezra actually is watching Ahsoka and Vader fight, and then Ezra pulls Ahsoka out of there before she gets killed by Vader. That was a very like what the heck moment, and no one was really talking about it at the time because it was a cartoon.
That makes me want to watch it, dude. I'm not as tapped in with Star Wars as you guys. That's kind of the reason why I hopped on here. So these shows sound pretty incredible.
It honestly was crazy because at that point we were still learning more about the Force and like the Force, and that wasn't even like that was before, you know, we knew about Force healing and all that stuff from episode 9, and how they could, like, you know, just pull a lightsaber like out of like the air.
It's
and
like pocket dimension stuff.
It was crazy. Like the Force is completely different than what it was when we were kids.
Yeah, I definitely think Ahsoka and Ezra are great examples of being able to bring in mystical to live action, because the mystical part of the Force is a big part of the EU side that I think is going to be great to be able to put on live action, like especially with Fallen Order, that has so many mystical elements in it, like the game.
I've played a little bit of it.
It's so many mystical elements that I would love to see in live action, that I think that maybe that first season is going to really just focus on morely like the mystical elements, not necessarily the whole time travel aspect, but maybe the history of the Jedi, maybe the history of, we're going to go all the way back to when they weren't split apart and they were all together, and the birth of the Force. I would love to see the history like that.
I think it would be cool if like maybe Ahsoka actually like jumped in time, and maybe that would be like the first appearance of some of the High Republic stuff. And and she goes back, and we're seeing like the prime of the Jedi from like Ahsoka's eyes, and then, you know, and then maybe that kind of brings her back to, okay, well, this is what being a Jedi is about, not about all the politics. Because of when Ahsoka was a Jedi, she questioned a lot, like not to Anakin, but just in general, because of there's the whole episode where she goes with Padme to the planet Raxus, and she meets like an actual separatist, and you realize that that the separatists aren't that different from the Republic, and she could just see how the war was kind of pointless. And then she also has the line of, I was in there during the Senate, and all they were talking about was the politics and not why we were actually fighting. And if Ahsoka went back in time and maybe saw like the Jedi actually being Jedi during the High Republic, and of what they were meant to be was peacemakers and not, messing around with politics and all that stuff, maybe that could, kind of bring her back to being a Jedi and being like, all right, this is exactly what the Jedi needs to be. I need to tell Luke this. And then maybe like Luke kind of goes back to that. And maybe that's how we see how Luke like kind of has that balance of attachment and all that stuff. Because in the High Republic, there was some attachments allowed. Like, so some people dated that was like, okay. But then when it got later, like during the time of the Clone Wars and all this stuff, it was more strict, like for a certain Jedi. So it would be very interesting if that's how Luke gets his inspiration. If like Ahsoka somehow looks at the during the High Republic era, some time travels or looks at, old holograms or something, and, realizes that like this is what the Jedi was meant to be, because of during the Clone Wars. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No. Personally, I think time travel is a lot more forgivable than multiverse hopping. There's a lot of speculation on just the Marvel universe. Not going to bring it up too much because that's what I do on my podcast. But essentially, what like people are under the impression that Endgame was the peak of Marvel. A lot. I mean, there's an argument to be made with Spider-Man, obviously, but the fact that they're multiverse hopping, we're starting to lose some of the fan base that's just they go and see the movies, not so much the comic book fans. I mean, I'm a comic book fan, so I'm totally on board for the whole multiverse idea. But I think if they jumped into the Star Wars universe, you'd make more enemies than necessary than if you just went with the time travel route, like you said.
But I think there's a way to have your cake and eat it too, though, because if they just simply recreate what's in Legends and put it up on TV, live action, film, or whatever, and just have that maybe separate and put like a big stamp on it saying this is the Legends books that they had in the 90s and 2000s. Just recreate that and go kind of do what kind of Kevin Feige did with Marvel. He went back to the source material and just put it up on screen.
The idea of legacy, that's kind of like old history tales, right? And most of them don't take place in the current time period.
So would you be okay with something like that? Whereas we already had, we had the Visions, we had Star Wars Visions. Would you be okay with having these kind of stories put in like a Star Wars Visions style, where you're like, hey, look, we're gonna have the Thrawn books, we're gonna have those, and we're gonna make those like an animated series, or we're gonna make those as a live action little like one-off? Would you be okay with that, or would you want to see like actually bring it into proper canon? Do you think that would be too confusing?
Like Legends, I like the idea of it because you can go the route of having an unreliable narrator throughout the storytelling, so not everything has to be 1,000% canonical or has to follow every rule that they've already come up with within the universe. And they could take liberties here and there because it's storytelling.
Isn't it something like that with Lego? They did something like that with Lego, where some of the stuff that's in the Lego is canon, but not at the same time.
I'm so glad you acknowledged that, because of Max Rebo does show up in the holiday special, and he's definitely alive, and they have a whole conversation with Poe. So thank you for acknowledging that, Josh. I appreciate it.
No, there's a Batman animated series where they did exactly this. I'm forgetting the name of this one specifically, but what they did is they had kids essentially around like a campfire type of thing, where they tell legends of the Dark Knight as opposed to actual stories. So they take obviously liberties and accentuate things more than they need to, like real storytelling does.
Get out of here, Joseph. You know that he's alive. He survived, man. Don't even.
I mean, he could have been in the restroom of the sanctuary. You don't know. I mean,
oh my God. Glad you guys have this fun inside joke that I don't get.
He could escape through the sewer lines and Kennedy. Are you kidding me? I've been obsessed with Max Rebo. I know
you've been making Max Rebo jokes since you were just in braces, so it's okay.
I made it 20 minutes.
Good comment. But yeah. But so my thing with Visions was that I wanted some of the stories to be canon, and then there were stories where I'm like, honestly, if you can leave these out of canon, I'm fine with it. Because of that first episode was amazing of Visions. Like I loved that. And then and then there was the other one where the Jedi end up going to the temple like to seek out these lightsabers, but then they end up being like Sith, and then
Spoilers.
it's like, yeah, sorry, but yeah. So no, I thought that like those shows were great, and there were so many episodes that where I'm like, I really wish they were canon, but then there were other ones where it was just over the top, like really, really over the top.
And I think this is a giant thing for Star Wars that I think a lot of fans aren't ready for technically, is that we need something new and we need to keep pushing new stuff. I think the best episodes of Visions are the ones that are completely different with new characters. Like it's all new stuff, all different things that we really love to see that are definitely Star Wars, but it's all different and new. And I think that is so important right now for Star Wars, is to make something new and get out of these 3 trilogy circumstance, like where we float right now. I want to break out of that so bad right now.
I love that you guys are expanding your universe a bunch, which is super cool, because like you can only hammer the nail so many times before just people get bored of hearing about the same old things with the same old characters. So the way that they're branching out, I think that's part of the reason Mandalorian was so successful throughout the first season, because there wasn't too many callbacks for things that had appeared in the movies previously.
So we are getting a couple of mixed reviews on Visions. I never read the novel for Ronin. I've heard that it's like some of it's good and some of it's bad, but it's not canon, is it, Dave?
No,
not
canon.
Okay, I didn't think so.
I don't think any of Visions are canon.
Yeah, no. Well, like I said, I was hoping that some of them would be, and something that we definitely talked about like in past like episodes of the podcast, which was that some of the episodes that they released of Visions felt like they were part of a story, not the beginning of it, but more part of a story. So it seemed like we were missing some things, and there were gaps that was like, wait, what? And it seemed like there was story before that could have helped prior, but it didn't.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. You being such a huge Star Wars fan, you're talking about how important canon is to you, but like me as a comic book reader, like some of my favorite stories ever written for comic books were Elseworld stories, like Flashpoint, things that don't necessarily count, but they're just intriguing storylines to watch play through. And it doesn't. That's
an extremely good point of just, I feel like we as fans do grasp a lot on the lore and a lot of explanation towards things. And I mean, that is something that where really old fans and newer fans are fighting about. And I think when they explained metachlorians, I'm the kind of person that didn't want metachlorians explained.
Yeah, that was something that was very surprised
I would have loved to have it just be, like a mysticism thing. But, that's what we have. And that's the canon. And every little thing for Star Wars does eventually either get explained or people will try their best to try and explain it, which is very interesting to me, because I'm kind of like, there's some things. That's why a lot of Visions I did like, because it didn't do that. And it was just like, hey, we can have fun, be completely different. There's elements of Star Wars I like here. Be done. That's cool to me. But yeah, I don't know how we're going to go towards the future with that.
Love it. And like you just said something, like there's something that did irritate you about that storyline and how it's canon now. Wouldn't you have preferred the thing that you just mentioned being an Elseworld story? Because, I mean, not that you get a choice personally, but as a fan, wouldn't you have preferred that being kind of outside of what you have to hold near and dear to your heart as canon?
Because, I mean, we have What If comics.
Right, exactly. And What If TV show. Shout out.
Yeah, we have like different versions and different things, like elements that we've talked about before, but I don't even think people who actually like the Star Wars canon like these big differences. like the comic books that they did, where it's like, what happens if like Vader was good, and then we have like what happens if this person died, and then what happens if this happened, and it's kind of like
that's fun. Maybe you guys just don't like hypotheticals.
They were fun. I thought they were fun. It's just I didn't think they were good and explored.
No, I think theories are great, and I think fan fiction is great too. But then I think people kind of get to that point where they think that fan fiction is real, and that's been happening a lot lately, where like people are comparing stuff from Legends and saying like, oh well, this is canon. I was like, well, no, because of they had to rewrite this and rewrite this, and this is no longer canon. For example, like in Legends, Han and Leia had 3 kids. Now they only have 1. And I remember having a conversation with someone when I think it was the Rise of Skywalker, and they were like, how come like Han's like 2 other kids haven't shown up yet? I'm like, well, they don't exist. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, they're Legends. They're kind of retconned out
this is
of
one
existence.
Of those things.
Do you think Star Wars can work as an anthology? Like, do you think it could work as an anthology?
Yeah, I totally think so. Like I just said, I mean, it's like you can make the legacy stuff, but see, I think Star Wars fans have a different kind of expectation than any other franchise fans, like Marvel, like DC.
Comic book fans have the reboot thing. Like almost every 10, 15 years, Marvel or DC will just reboot their universe, rewrite their favorite characters the way they want to. They exclude everything they didn't like about what they did with the character, and they keep everything they did. DC's a prime example. They went from New 52 to the Infinite Frontier saga, and they changed their characters a bunch. And that's something that they benefit from that Star Wars doesn't necessarily have going for them, but it can be considered good or bad.
Well, something that they actually kind of did was for Disney Plus. They actually made a Star Wars vintage like area where you could watch things that are no longer canon, and they made that very clear. So it's got stuff from the Ewok movies, to the Ewok TV show, Droids, the 2D micro series of the Clone Wars. Like all that stuff is not technically canon, including the holiday special. Some of the elements of the holiday special are canon, but not all of it is canon. And a lot of the elements of the holiday special are hinted at, ironically, in the Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian. And it's funny because at the time, the holiday special was like awful. Like when that came out, people were like, what is this? And George Lucas wanted nothing to do with it. But now we look back at it, as a joke, but we also loved elements of it, because if we didn't get the holiday special, there would be no Boba Fett. Like honestly, no Boba Fett and no Mandalorian. Like that was the coolest thing. Like that cartoon that came out for the holiday special with Boba Fett was so cool.
I think we'd still have Boba Fett. We just wouldn't have the pink dinosaur he was riding on, because they were.
I don't think we probably wouldn't have gotten Mando though, because of his rifle is based off the rifle.
Right, we wouldn't have gotten the pulse rifle. Yeah, that's correct. I don't think we would have gotten that. But I mean, I don't actually know who created that, but yeah. That is kind of.
I wouldn't call that a defining characteristic, though. I mean, Mandalorian could exist outside of having that gun, but I get your point.
Right.
But I think what made him cool is that he did have elements, which I've kind of heard this, and I want to see if you guys agree with me. But what Mandalorian is what we were hoping what the Book of Boba Fett would be.
Right.
Because of the way that Mando like acts is in our mind is, oh, hey, that's how Boba Fett does. And then when we got the Book of Boba Fett and the way that Boba Fett was acting, he wasn't like how we remember him when we saw him first in Empire.
But he's like that in Mandalorian season 2.
Right. But then you go to the show and he's completely different. Yeah. And it's and I think I might have said this. But the director, Robert Rodriguez, is great for. Thank you for making sure I said that correctly. But what he's great at is action scenes. Like hands down, great action scenes, great at it. But I think actual story writing that adds plot to the characters and the dialogue and everything, it was kind of rough, because it shows, because the best 2 episodes were the ones where it was two different directors, which was Bryce Dallas Howard and Dave Filoni, and those overshined the other two. And I think it wasn't because it was the Mandalorian; it's because of the story and the plot and the writing of it was a lot better than the other episodes.
That is the thing, is that I don't know how preordained their path has to be.
Right.
How much do they have to listen to an outside person and be like, hey, look, you have to go down this path with this character, make it happen however you want, but this is the end goal.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe Robert Rodriguez doesn't work well with that kind of stuff, because his movies, it's usually just him, boom, and then he makes it, and then it's like his story.
Yeah.
So it might be interesting to have like this be the preordained path where Boba has to go. He's got to reform himself, become a nicer, like, gentleman, put all this stuff behind him. And then he, like, Robert Rodriguez is like, hey dude, I literally do action movies and I do lots of fight scenes. It's hard for me to be able to convey that on screen.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because it's just a director. There's different types of directors. There's ones that are really good at working within canon of a universe, but there's other ones that just like doing their own thing. And that's kind of the reason why some of the top tier directors don't necessarily want to join or do an MCU movie. They intentionally go away from it, like what they did with Edgar Wright, and there was the new Ant-Man movie. Like, he left the project because he didn't like what he had to do to remain within canon. So I think that's kind of maybe what Robert Rodriguez kind of
ran into.
Yeah.
And something else as well is that if you, I think one of my favorite episodes, like out of all of Mandalorian, like, besides the ones with like Ahsoka and Luke and everything, which was really cool, was the one directed by Robert Rodriguez, because of Boba Fett comes in and we're like, oh my gosh, like it's Boba. And then you see him like how we saw him like in Empire, where he's like this, listen to me, this is happening. You can deal with it how you want, but I'm getting my armor back. And they're fighting and stuff. And then he puts on his armor and he's just taking everyone down. And then like, it's like, this is Boba Fett. This is awesome. He's a savage. Like, he's taking down stormtroopers left and right. And it's like coolest thing. So I was, a lot of people were expecting that's how it was going to be for the entire show of the Book of Boba Fett. And we barely got that.
That's trying to stay on the gas pedal. I think that could have been its own issue, is trying to keep it going hard and fast for too long, because you're going to run out of juice.
Right. But that's who Boba Fett was. Like to us, was this guy, was go into action, ask questions later. That's the kind of guy that Boba Fett was. Not being in a big fight, walking downstairs in his bathrobe and then asking, hey, is everything okay? Like, that's not Boba Fett to me. That was never Boba Fett to me. I was blown away when that happened. I was like, what? I was like, he would have put on his armor and that's and it's just like the same thing in The Last Jedi, where it's like Luke was the way that he was. And I know all the trauma that he went through, but it was like, no, Luke would have never thrown his old lightsaber over his shoulder. And that is bashed in The Rise of Skywalker, where he catches the lightsaber that Rey's about to throw away, and he's like, this is not how you treat a Jedi's weapon. You need to treat it with more respect. And it's like, that's a total bash in what you did in The Last Jedi. So it's just funny to me that when the original person that made the content is not involved in the writing. And you can definitely tell, because Dave Filoni, he's involved. So with all the characters like Ahsoka showing back up and Bo-Katan and all those characters, they are great in live action, and it's because of the creator is part of it and working hard on it. And they're still with the journey, while George Lucas is no longer there. And Luke Skywalker is doing great in Mando and Book of Boba Fett. And I think it's because of the second, probably the closest person to George Lucas, Dave Filoni, is there. And because of he fully understands, because of he was like George's right-hand man. So I 100% understand why Luke is great. But then you look at all these other characters that that are being under surveillance and being worked on by other directors that aren't involved as Dave Filoni is. And I think that's a big difference.
Yeah, Jon Favreau wrote the Book of Boba Fett, so Robert
Yeah.
Rodriguez didn't write anything; he just directed. So I
Right.
wonder if we had different directors, would we like those episodes more? I mean, it's,
I don't feel like it's
it's a very good
though.
question.
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
Well,
But
we
the
just really don't
feeling
feel
you
like it.
have, Colin, about not getting what you were anticipating, that was the same exact feeling I had in 2005 when I saw the Anakin Obi-Wan duel. It didn't live up to my expectations.
Are
at
you
all.
kidding me,
Yeah,
dude?
yeah.
My older brother and I were flipping out, man. Because of I thought that fight was incredible. I remember watching it over and over again. The only reason why I know how to use a lightsaber is because of Anakin and Obi-Wan. Like, I love that
And
scene.
the talent show you did in 2012.
Yeah, dude, it was sick, man. Like, it was great. I like was
was
doing the
pretty
lightsaber thing. My hands are sweaty. It flew into the crowd, and then I went back in, and then my
Should've used the Force, bro. Why'd you go chase
yeah,
that?
and then someone's like, "Colin, keep going," and they threw it back to me, and I grabbed it and kept fighting. And Wyatt Camp, I was doing like
It was
you
dope.
know,
I'm not. I
yeah.
was just giving.
Dude, it was sick, man. Like,
it was
we
pretty.
worked hard on that choreography. Like, I said that wrong, but yeah, no, like I loved it, man. Like, I loved that fight scene. That was like pure art. Because of not only was it a fight, but you could feel the emotion that was happening because it was two best friends, two brothers fighting. And from Anakin's point of view, he was doing it for love, but Obi-Wan, was being
Logical.
Was being logical and being the bad guy because of he didn't approve Anakin of like killing all these people for love. And these are two people side by side that fought side by side with each other for years. And Obi-Wan raised Anakin. And now these two are like at each other's throats fighting, and you could feel that emotion in the battle. So that fight to me was amazing. It was a beautiful piece of art, and I don't think it like there are some deleted scenes of where where Obi-Wan's like, "Hey, let her go," and Anakin just falls out, like throws Padme, like just lifts her up and throws her against the wall, and like it's just like, whoa, like what the heck? And it's just like I feel like Revenge of the Sith could have been rated R. Like it totally could have been rated R. And but I loved that scene. I loved the whole like fight sequence. It was done
cooler looking than the rematch in episode 4, where Obi-Wan's just stupid old. Just can't fight for garbage.
Which I'm curious.
It's going to be very interesting.
I'm so excited for that show.
Yeah.
Believe me.
That is going to be interesting too, because of if you look at how all of the other characters have aged as much as like, they're because if we see Bail Organa show up in Rogue One, and he looks, at the decent age of where he doesn't look too old, like old Ben Kenobi does in episode 4. And the one big reason why is because of they, had to, because it was two different actors playing the character, so it makes sense, why. But there's also a theory going around, which Star Wars Theory has talked about this, but about how there was an old Sith temple on Tatooine, and apparently, like in the Darth Plagueis novel, it actually would it would make people age more because of of the existence of it, was too powerful, and it kind of drained people of age.
Also, there's two suns bearing down on you, and if you live in the desert,
and that was adding to it too. So I'm curious of what they'll do with that. I'm curious if they will acknowledge that because of something big, which I wish they did in episode 9. And episode 9 was not what we wanted, but from the concept art for Rise of Skywalker and Duel of Fates was amazing. By the way, if you guys haven't read the script, read it. But in one of the concept arts, there's a secret Sith temple underneath the Jedi temple in Coruscant, and that was supposed to be like a huge reveal. And that would have been crazy. That would have been nuts.
Hold up. What you're saying right now is there was an entire Sith base under the Jedi base.
An old Sith temple, and the
dude.
Jedi built it on top of the Sith temple, and no one knew that, and then that would be like a huge reveal that for thousands of years that was existed, and they just didn't go with it, and we didn't see Coruscant or anything, and of course half of that planet However, the planet of Coruscant was supposed to be abandoned during that time, like the Rise of Skywalker and stuff. But we didn't get it, and we were supposed to go to Mustafar 2, and we didn't get it. But yeah, no, there are so many elements of Legends. I so wish that would be canon. And
I mean that the new stuff in the new Knights of the Old Republic or Old Republic.
Speaking my language now, I'm pumped.
Yeah, the new Old Republic trailer. Yeah, my goodness, me and Colin ended up sitting down and watching it. And that was very, very interesting. Those are elements that we would love to see brought into our live action. I would love to see that kind of stuff more. But hey, we're gonna get old-timey Star Wars, hopefully that's live action stuff, and we're gonna actually do something with it.
That's also a good point, where it's like we don't need a multiverse because there's so much history and lore throughout Star Wars that hasn't been touched yet.
Awesome
I know, I did bring it back because it's still bugging me that everyone that you're mentioning Ahsoka jumping time zones and stuff. Well, not time zones, but multiverses. But there's so much stuff.
So I don't think we could get multiverse. I think more of time jumping, of where she actually goes through time. Like I can see something like that. I'm not talking about where she hops in a Star Wars time. DeLorean and then goes into time. Like it's just a portal. She walks through, and I think, also.
I think you were saying before where it's like a learning thing, and we get to see different eras of the Jedi through the veil would be amazing.
That would be the coolest thing, because of no joke, the Force is so cool. It's such a cool element of Star Wars. And yes, there's smugglers, bounty hunters, different planets and stuff, but the Force is what intrigued a lot of people in the audience back in 1977 when they went and saw it, because of it's so expansive, and there's still things we don't know about. We still don't know the actual of what the full out prophecy of the Chosen One says. We know the small element, which is he will bring balance back to the Force. What made the Force fall out of balance? Well, we see that in the High Republic. Will we see this prophecy written? Who wrote the prophecy? How cool would it be if it turns out that maybe Yoda was the one that wrote it, and Yoda's been keeping that a secret this entire time? Those elements, those type of things, I want to see. And it would be cool if the character that that had the most struggles with the Force and the Jedi, of just being a Jedi and when what's good and what's bad, Ahsoka dealing with that would be huge, because that would be a good way to bring her back into being a Jedi, because if she's technically no longer a Jedi. So I would love to see that, and for her to kind of come back and be like, all right, this is the Jedi way, and then she comes back and she kind of tells Luke how he could change, and how the new Jedi Order could change. That would be cool. But yeah, there's my rant.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see some new Star Wars. Is there anything that you guys definitely want to see towards the future, live action wise, of some an element that you've seen? Okay, how about, is there an element in Star Wars that is from Legends that you would love to see in live action?
It honestly would be the Old Republic for me. I would love to dive. Or just even the High Republic. I want to see the Jedi in their prime. 1313.
Beautiful.
Yes. 1313 would be really, really cool. Recently, the actual footage of the game, some of the footage got leaked and dropped online, and that was so cool. It was you chasing a thug through the underworld of Coruscant. And I'm so sad that we didn't get that. That would have been one of the coolest games. You do have the game Django. You do have the game Bounty Hunter, which is kind of Jango Fett's origin story, which is really, really cool. But I wish we got 1313 because of that. That just looked phenomenal. And I can't wait till the open world game comes out. Can't wait till Eclipse. There's a lot of good Star Wars games coming out.
I've got a question for you guys, being the Star Wars experts here. Could you do your Ahsoka Tano stuff going on do they have a Star Wars equivalent of like a Cerebro from X-Men to where she could really experience the history as opposed to time traveling? Do they have something
I mean,
like that?
maybe the closest thing would probably be some Jedi holocrons, because there are Jedi holocrons from thousands of years ago that
Right.
have, that has data from different timelines, I guess, but it's different from watching it and then experiencing it. And I think if Ahsoka actually experienced it, would be very interesting. And I think that's something they will do. I've been trying to think of what the plot of Ahsoka would be. And maybe that might be her way of finding Ezra, because of Ezra's lost, and like how
I think that's what we're all assuming that the show's going to be
how
about.
would she find him? And then be like, oh wait, well, you know what? She could pull a reverse Uno card and do the exact same thing that Ezra did by pulling her out of the timeline, and Ahsoka pulls him out of the timeline.
Do they have
like-
Uno in space?
What? Oh,
Do they have Uno in
Have
space?
Sabak.
yeah. Hey, yeah. So I could see them doing something like that, but then that wouldn't explain how, and then maybe like Thrawn somehow kind of leaks through and like, gets to like a certain point of the timeline. But then you're talking about like a whole retcon of thing and it gets confusing with the timelines, because of time traveling is already confusing in the first place. Especially with different franchises doing it. Like in Endgame, it was confusing people. Even in Back to the Future, it's time. Like some of it's like, where's the logic in that? So if you add time travel to Star Wars, you got to do it right. You have to have the right writers to do it.
We do have a lot more changing in Star Wars in the fact that of what is actually canon now. I think anything that is now going to be put on screen is going to be the actual canon. I mean, we just had the Yoda lightsaber thing, and that was a pretty big one. How did Luke get it if it was destroyed in the comic book on screen?
A lot of people didn't know all the comics because it got destroyed in a comic book, but then Yoda rebuilt a new lightsaber in a new comic book run. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people didn't know that other comic book run, so people just
didn't actually. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, like there's so much interesting stuff. Is it like the exact same lightsaber as well?
Yeah, pretty much the same exact lightsaber.
Update it. Put like an Obi-Wan and make like a cooler lightsaber. Why are you gonna remake the same one again?
Maybe to get around the fact that they destroyed the lightsaber in Darth Vader #1. So maybe that was a thing. I don't know, but that was in their back pocket, and they got the story group at Lucasfilm to kind of cover all that, to make sure everything is cohesive. But of course, they did break canon in that first episode of The Bad Batch with the whole Caleb Doom situation. So I don't think, that made fans too happy, but. The rule is whatever is in live action film TV is overriding canon.
Yep.
So
yep.
And I don't think there's any other situations. Can anyone else think of another situation where they kind of broke canon that way?
Well, that is where the Star Cruiser comes in, because of what happens if they like something happens on the Star Cruiser that maybe like that like doesn't match up with the timeline in some way. Would that retcon?
But we haven't gone to that timeline in live action though.
Well,
and have we gone to it in like the comics? I mean, have they? I know there's a Halcyon comic.
Well, I mean, right? I know, but what I'm saying is that the Halcyon and Galaxy's Edge is happening in a specific timeline, right? So it is happening 4 months after the Battle of Crate, and 6 months before the events of the Rise of Skywalker. So that timeline is happening strictly on like at Galaxy's Edge and on the Halcyon Galactic Star Cruiser. Right. So technically this is like real live action because people are actually experiences it. So the events of you actually going and getting the coaxium, that mission did happen, not with each individual person, but that did happen. Hondo owning Onaka Transport Solutions, that's a real thing. Olga's like everything is canon there. And with the Halcyon, that's going to be the same concept because it is connected to the land. But I'm curious if the stuff that happens on the cruiser or Galaxy's Edge, like like when you're actually there and you see it, does that retcon some of the stuff that maybe has happened, like maybe in some of the comics or something like that, because it's happening in live action?
It would, but I don't think they're going to do that, though. I think they're going to be careful with that because they've been planning it for a while. So
Right, but in the Book of Boba Fett, you have Yoda, that actually, you actually have Luke that holds up Yoda's lightsaber, and Yoda's lightsaber was, known to be,
Small.
destroyed.
Well,
Yes, it was
yeah,
small.
we just talked about that.
We just talked about
He
that.
rebuilt it, yeah.
Yeah,
In a
so
different comic run,
technically, he
and it
rebuilt
looked
so
identical. Yeah.
So, no,
it'll be interesting.
I'm curious of what the rules apply there. But yeah, no, it's awesome.
I would really love to see the certain point of view books made into live action because
that would be really, really cool.
They are really, really good. Those are probably some of the best books I've cracked open for Star Wars. There
really honestly
good.
are some. I think some of the stories from the Empire Strikes Back one was really cool because of I can't think of the guy, but he's the guy that's like running through Cloud City that
Wilro Hood.
Yes, his story is so cool.
First appearance of the ice cream maker.
Yeah, and that's a running joke at every Star Wars celebration because there's always like 100 of them dressed up, and they're just running around the convention like holding them and just running around, and they're always brought up on the actual like Star Wars show stage, and it's just so funny to me. And I was like, "That's
lost me on this ice cream thing, dude. You've said a lot of weird words in different universes and comic lines, but the ice cream maker.
Do you know what podcast you're on, sir?
During like one of the scenes, it's a dude just running out with like what is like a painted ice cream maker, like an old ice cream maker, right? But what they did for the Mandalorian is they tried to explain it, and then they made it a canister full of like it's like a lock safe, like a personal lock safe that you can run around with. So that was
there is.
Yeah, cool. I was right. Yes, that's the guy. And there's a whole backstory to this character, and it's so cool.
That's the thing about Star Wars, man. You guys all get a backstory. Everybody at
that's what I
every
was saying
single
before.
character, dude, it's nuts. Like almost
It's
every
great.
like
I
single
appreciate it.
dude, every character in the cantina has some type of backstory. Like there's a reason why. There's a reason why every character is at the cantina in episode 4. Like they are not just there. Like there's like an actual like story for each individual character that is there and why they're there and what they're doing and why. And it's so cool. And that's like for most characters good because it's like this guy was on screen for 5 seconds. He like has like chapters in a book. It's like he was on screen for 5 seconds. And you also look at other characters that showed up in live action, like Kit Fisto and Attack of the Clones. So cool, right? And then you actually go to Clone Wars, and he's just this. He is the second best like lightsaber duelist in the galaxy, and it's so cool. But yeah, that's an example right
so
there.
Quickly to the Emperor in episode 3, and now
that's a really good example. Yeah, I can't answer that, but it's but that is technically canon. That that he is the second best lightsaber duelist, and then the second best like fighter pilot is Seizen Tin.
They're gonna say Kaimunde.
Yeah.
No. In a plane.
Actually, no, he didn't. You're talking about Plo Koon. The other guy.
My bad, dog.
You stepped wrong.
Come on, man! Don't you dare come on my podcast. And talk to me. No, but yeah, no. But yeah, no. So I'm very curious on how that is gonna, because that's a good question. I would love that question answered. Like, if something doesn't match up with the timeline that happens on the Halcyon, does that retcon that event? Like, I'm not saying like, oh hey, like they're in the Halcyon and they're talking about like the Battle of Endor or something, and they get like something wrong. Like, does that conquer?
But I don't see how it would be more possible for it to happen on the Halcyon though.
I don't know.
I think the question is, Colin, if you dress up as a stormtrooper and get hammered in the Halcyon, is that also canon?
No.
That is a
as far
very
as I know.
very fun, interesting, weird thing about what kind of canon we live in.
Yes.
Because you have consumer canon where you have all these people making lightsabers.
Patrick G's got a point.
Nice. Good
And
work,
then-
Patrick. Appreciate it.
And then you have canon where what we know. Like as Colin was talking about like before, it's like, hey, if you go on Smuggler's Run, the first time it was ever done, that was canon. Boom. There you go. But like
It's not canon for the one guy that goes for the single rider line like 24 times in the same day. That's not canon. But like
Dude, Dave's a good guy. Don't be mean to him.
but yeah, no. So I'm with you, Josh. It just some elements are canon, some elements aren't canon, but I'm curious of what they will declare canon, like if they end up retconning something. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Fair enough.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they would retcon just for the cruiser. It's gonna be interesting to see how many like actual like cameos we get from different eras and how important the cruiser is to those. And it's gonna be funny how they're gonna be like, well, actually, you know who was sitting over here in this corner? This character you like. Did you know that? Wow. So it's gonna be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because of something great about Black Spire Outpost is that, you know, for example, Anakin and Thrawn went there. There are blaster marks in the cantina that are from a bar fight that they had in there, and then years later, Vader and Thrawn went back to the same planet. So it's really cool how they do bring those elements to it, and some of the main characters actually have been to Galaxy's Edge, and then also, you know, to the cruiser, because later, you know, which we really know nothing about except they are going to have their Han and Leia are going to have their honeymoon on the Halcyon, which is really, really interesting to me. But yeah, should be. Well, yeah.
Hey, I mean, once
They
Friday
can
swings
see
around, then
Kylo
it's going to be very interesting to
on
see what everyone's
Um,
views are on it. So I'm pretty excited for that.
No.
Also, these eBay prices. Can't wait to see those.
Oh man, we'll have to wait and see. But for the new Lego Star Wars game, I did want to talk about, because they actually did talk more about of what you can do in the game. 300 characters, not including the DLC packs, which is really, really cool. But you have like 24 planets. You can actually free roam. You can actually go to the planets. And then something that I didn't know, but sometimes in order to get to the planet, you have to fight through the blockade. And then and sometimes you actually have to board the enemy ship, have to take it from the inside, and win it there, and then you can go to the surface. And that's a really cool element.
That's pretty cool.
Because they're advertising this as like their biggest Lego game of all time. And I was like,
It's
well,
been
they say
3
that about
years.
every Lego game. But
It's
honestly,
3 years now? Yeah, it's been like 3
Yeah.
years since they originally were like, yeah, it's coming out in less
Yeah.
than a year. So
trust me, I know.
it's nice to finally start
Yeah.
almost there.
I'm hoping for like an extra level, like because if you can actually fly the actual transport ship from Rise of Skywalker in it, like that's a confirmed actual like not a Rise of Skywalker ship, from the Rise of the Resistance, like of the actual shuttle. You can actually fly that ship in the game. So how cool would it be to have like Galaxy's Edge like as like a Batu as an actual plane, like after you beat the game like 100% go there, and you could actually like roam.
I don't
like,
doubt that it's actually in the game.
that.
I don't doubt
Oh
that
my
it's in the
gosh,
game.
bro!
I
would love.
I could
oh my
almost,
gosh.
dude. It's gonna be Smuggler's Run, but in
That is
Lego
gonna be
form.
the nerdiest thing of all time.
It's gonna be
like,
amazing.
we'll be playing it, and I'll be like, I'm at work, but I'm not at work. Like what? Like what is happening right now?
I think
So-
that would be a very fun element. Yeah,
That would be
definitely.
very, very cool. Yeah. But yeah, no, dude. No, I'm so excited for that game, and then that will also, you know, it'll be cool too, because you'll be able to customize your character, and after, you know, them saying, hey, 300 characters will have. Can you imagine the customizations that you can do, and then you can make your own droid and stuff like that as well? Like, oh man, that game's gonna be sick. I'm so excited for that. Oh,
Sounds like
but yeah. So that's coming on April 5th. If you haven't pre-ordered yet, I would. If you get the physical copy, it comes with a Luke Skywalker minifigure where he's drinking blue milk, and it's got two faces, him smiling, and the other one where he has a blue milk mustache. So that's an exclusive. I would get that if you like that kind of stuff. And then there's Kenobi. Kenobi's coming up soon. Star Wars Celebration is coming up soon. Kenobi's going to be huge, and it's probably going to be the darkest Star Wars stuff that we've gotten.
It's going to pull me back
thinking.
in. I've always liked Star Wars, and I watch Mando, and I've watched Book of Boba Fett, but like as far as the obsession that I felt back in like 5th grade that I had towards Star Wars, it's going to be this show that really.
Are you telling me my obsession hasn't helped at all?
No, I mean, it helps a little. I mean, I know more about Star Wars than I would have if I wasn't friends with you, so there's that.
Yeah.
But Kenobi's going to bring me back in, man. I'll be.
Oh yeah,
big
no.
fan.
Well, I mean, we are in this prequels age right now of so much like prequels nostalgia. So it's definitely going to be bringing back all of our good memories of seeing the prequel fans, all that kind of fun jazz stuff. So it's going to be fun and interesting.
I was reading something. There was a comment that Ewan McGregor made that he is realizing that he's getting all this extra love. Same with Hayden, because the kids that grew up watching the prequels are now the adults that are going to the movies and stuff. So they're getting a lot more love than they did back when, the 1970s fans were kind of feeling their thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read his quote on the last podcast. That's a pretty interesting thing. That's the way he kind of looks at it. But what I was going to say was Screen Thrill and Venture Pictures put out an interesting infographic. I'll put it up on screen.
I saw that.
To read, but I'll read out some of this here. So the quick facts for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney Plus are that it's set 10 years after the events of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. It is a limited series of 6 episodes. Filming began by May 2021 in Los Angeles and wrapped that September. And of course, we all know it's scheduled for May 25th of this year.
The original Star Wars Day.
Yep. And the Mandalorian Stagecraft was also used.
Yes. And so for those who don't know that, it's the volume.
Fancy wall thing, right? Yeah.
It's this dome that you go in, and it looks like, I mean, on screen it looks phenomenal. And then, from like not the normal eye, if you walk in, to the normal eye and you don't know you're in there, you might not actually know at first, for a split second. That's how detailed and awesome that it is. And they use that for a lot of Mandalorian stuff. They did use some of it for the Book of Boba Fett, and you can definitely tell in the Book of Boba Fett.
It's for realistic lighting, correct?
Yes, and it's also used for realistic, actual background. So
are you talking about the one that domes around?
Yeah. So okay,
the one that they made because the Mandalorian's armor is chrome. So trying to get these shots actually put in and not have them just reflect a green screen would have been impossible.
Can explain this a lot better than me.
Yeah, I mean, they made it for a lot of reasons. I mean, the fact that they have the technology to make it seem like the projected background can actually pass on a 4K, 8K, 12K camera is unbelievable. And they use the Unreal Engine to do that. And there's a story of a Disney executive going on set and thinking that what he was seeing was real. And he kind of fell over because he was trying to lean on something that wasn't there, which, I mean.
So he's old.
But see, there's also stories of actors getting on the set, on the stage,
not knowing,
and then they change the scene, and the whole thing rolls over to the next scene, and it's like they want to fall over because they feel like they're actually in that environment.
Whoa, man! Whoa!
And then, of course, once it became a success and it worked for the Mandalorian, they built other stagecraft setups all around the world, and I know Marvel is using stagecraft as well. So yeah, I think there's one in Australia. There's a couple in the LA area. There's one in the UK for Andor, I'm guessing. But yeah, it's been a total success. Another huge innovation that Star Wars has brought and is just adding to the legacy of all the innovative things they've created. So
yeah. So there's that, and then John Williams is making the theme, the GOAT, which we talked about in the last episode, which is phenomenal. which my theory on that is that John Williams did a bunch of like the iconic scores for certain characters like Luke, Leia. He did all these themes, but some of these characters like Han and Kenobi never got their actual like themes. And now that they have their own projects, that's why John Williams went back and he did the main theme for Han for Solo, and then he's doing the main theme for Kenobi, because I guarantee like he like thought like a lot of themes for all these people, but he like never like went through with it because it didn't fit in the script. But now they have their own shows. He's like, hey, I've like had this in the back of my head for a while. Try this. So I can't wait to replay Kenobi's theme over and over again, because it's going to be good, because John Williams is phenomenal. So I
hope it's bagpipes and you're wrong, but it probably won't be.
That would be kind of interesting. Bagpipes in Star Wars.
Is Ian McGregor Scottish? I feel like he is.
He is.
Yeah, he's Scottish.
Yeah, so fitting.
Yeah. And then Liam Neeson, which we know he's going to be a Force ghost, but I guess it was recently confirmed.
Okay,
kind of.
Is
that
it confirmed?
That was one of the things that I was kind of confused about, because I almost for sure it was said that like he never finished his full Force ghost training, and that
most likely it's going to be yeah, because if we
the
talk about
flashback,
that morning, right?
the flashback thing really interests me.
Yes, you know what? I remember a conversation this morning. No, dude, like imagine if they had like young Obi-Wan and
they're gonna de-age him like they did Robert
Downey.
Oh
my gosh, bro!
Infinity
Everyone
War.
would lose it. Like, how cool would it be to see a flashback of like something they talked about in the Clone Wars, where Obi-Wan and Satine and Qui-Gon were on the run because they were trying to like kill like Satine and stuff like that. How cool would it be to see young Obi-Wan and like Qui-Gon and then Satine? And that would be a great way to bring like that character into live action. Like that would be, oh my gosh.
Ewan
so
McGregor is pretty handsome already. I don't know if we need to de-age him, but sure, if it makes sense for the story.
Well, during that point, he would be like a kid. So like he would probably be, probably not even in his 20s yet. Like, and the Phantom Menace is where he kind of falls in the line of that.
That's actually a good point, and that I just thought. Would you guys prefer that they recast just a younger Obi-Wan as opposed to
Nope.
Well, because they did people were so upset about Mark Hamill being de-aged when they wanted Sebastian Stan to play the young Luke Skywalker. So
I'm kind of glad. I think we got mixed reviews on that, because I think David was for him. I really wasn't, because I was like,
I'm for him. I love Sebastian Stan.
But it didn't work for Solo though.
That.
And yeah, it didn't work for Solo. Like, okay, in your opinion, do you guys really think that Alden did a great job as young Harrison Ford?
Was unknown. He really got the role because he was good at impersonating Harrison Ford. He didn't have an established career like Sebastian Stan.
I know. But I'm skeptical because of now we have that deepfake technology. Use it. Look how great Luke looks in Book of Boba Fett. That was incredible.
Yeah, before Book of Boba Fett, I was totally for Sebastian Stan. But after we got the actual deepfake that Shamook used, the guy the civilian they just hired, Lucasfilm just hired him off the street. I mean, he did a incredible job. And of course,
fan edit to prove that he was better than their technology.
Yeah, he did that.
Yeah. And that's why he got hired.
I know.
That's why he got hired, man.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess it really depends on how young you want to make him. If you make him like in his early 20s, then that would make sense. But if he's playing like, a 10-year-old kid, then you can't really make Ewan McGregor 10. That would be ridiculous.
I mean, that just looks uncanny, man. I mean, that's I would totally go for
incredible.
A series of that.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they're gonna do a Clone Wars live action something or other in Obi-Wan Kenobi, a flashback of him with Ahsoka.
I'm
pretty sure it's happening.
Out. I
people would go
honestly
nuts. Get him in his armor. Woo!
I say it every episode. I've been saying it every episode. Like Kenobi's been the most anticipated thing. That like as soon as Disney got the rights to it, no joke, all the fans were like, do something with Obi-Wan, like do something with Kenobi, like do it. Like I remember reading articles back in 2013 when the deal was just made about them like doing something with Kenobi. Like it's finally happening. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be dark.
Yeah.
It's going to be twisted. We'll see Anakin and Obi-Wan together. We'll see, and we're actually getting more than one fight with Vader and Obi-Wan.
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's the rumor.
They're not going to do a one-off. It's going to be like
Yeah,
they meet
no.
2-3
Oh my
times,
gosh,
I imagine.
man. And we're probably getting, Sith Inquisitors, and there's so much to like look forward to. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait till May. Like May is going to be a great month for Star Wars in general because of, yes, we've got, Kenobi coming up, but we got Star Wars Day, and then we got, 4 days of Star Wars Celebration, 3 days of Star Wars Celebration. So it's like that whole month is just going to be Star Wars nonstop, and it's going to be crazy. But that's also the same month that Doctor Strange comes out.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm looking forward to in May. But I mean, you guys have fun too
as well.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it too. But I'm just on the Star Wars hype train right now.
I'm on the same. Yeah, I'm just the reverse train. I'm really hyped for Obi-Wan. I'm just more hyped for Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah.
Do you think we're gonna get any like Fallen Order thing to do with this as well?
Oh, he better be in it.
Cal,
he's great.
Cal Kestis.
He's
All
great.
right. So when Dave Filoni like has a character show up somewhere, it's most of the time it's not a coincidence, and it's not the last time we see it. So when we saw the BD unit in Book of Boba Fett, I was like, that is such a hint.
They're just like, we're just
there's
gonna
a chance.
say BD, right? We're not gonna put the one at the end.
No,
We're gonna say BD, and I was just like,
right.
Can you?
There is no
again?
way that there's no way that they will not have Cal come up at some point because of every single sudden hint of a character like showing up, like even a prop that belongs to him, they end up showing up later. And honestly, I can see that happening with Cal Kestis and like him,
I think
like
it'd be a cool fit at that time.
my gosh, it would be so cool. Like, and there's a
It would
chance
be a missed
that
opportunity.
yeah, there's a chance that Jedi Fallen Order 2 is coming out this year as well.
That's what I'm saying. Is like I think that would be a very cool kind of like you're like
oh my gosh,
here's a little here, and then here's a little here, and then here's the new game. There you go. So I think that would be very cool because all that I've heard from like the rumors is like it's not going to be called Fallen Order 2. It's going to be called something else than that.
Yeah.
And I think it would be very interesting as something to do with Kenobi connects it to the new game.
You guys think that they're so like meta within this that they know they're going to be making things like this? So when they made the game, they hired an actor to be the mocap like Cameron McGonagall because he is a solid actor. Do you think they hired him for that game knowing that they would eventually put him in a movie or future live action project?
That's a very good question. Maybe.
I think Star Wars is always in.
But then again, we've also had Force Unleashed.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Those games were hype.
But I think Star Wars is always playing the angle of the long game. Like that is what they've been doing a lot recently, is that they've been playing the long game of where and that actually backtracks all the way to when George Lucas got done with 4, 5, and 6. He was like, hey, I'm doing 1, 2, and 3, and then jumping to 7, 8, 9. And then 7, 8, and 9 never was made by him. So I think that like Disney took that and was like, hey, there's so much content that we can do, and there's so many timelines that we can go over. Star Wars is never going to end.
That's
especially
the point. Having the Disney backing is like establishing you that you're never going to run out of money. So it's really until people are tired of it in a franchise like Star Wars or Marvel, like people are never going to fully get tired of it. So it's just keep making stuff, keep printing money, man.
Although if Amazon bought Star Wars,
they can have Star Trek.
Because of the new series is like the budget of $1 billion. Like that's crazy.
Lord of the Rings.
Could you imagine
Star Wars has a budget?
Yeah. Could you imagine if they ended up doing like a Star Wars movie or something like that, where like the budget was like $1 billion or something, or like a Disney Plus show was that? Oh my gosh, man!
Too
that
many shareholders would object, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What if Amazon had Star Wars, had the rights to Star Wars? I don't know if Bezos is a big Star Wars fan, but yeah, they really stepped up to the plate buying the Lord of the Rings, right?
Bezos is just Lex Luthor. That's what he is.
He's evolved or devolved, I don't know. But yeah, going back to what you said about getting playing the long game. I mean, they did that in Clone Wars with Katie Sackhoff being Bo-Katan, and then they had her play live action Bo-Katan. And yeah, as soon as they cast that actor, Cameron Monaghan, I was like, yeah, he's gonna appear one day. But
Yeah.
it's surprising that he hasn't appeared yet. That's the only thing that's kind of like.
Well, he's
I
never
mean-
short on work. That dude keeps
Yeah.
himself busy. So
That-
he'll get to it.
That panel was also so cool. I remember being at the panel for Jedi Fallen Order, and I remember just sitting there and I was like, this is a new story for Star Wars, and they cast a great actor. And I remember watching that trailer and being like, is this a show? I know it's a game, but it feels like a show. And then when you play the game, it's like that mystery and all that stuff was so cool. And the fact that I did tie like to the Skywalker saga and it's just a different perspective was really, really cool. And I'm thinking that we will get that second game because of the first game was a success. And Star Wars Battlefront 2 was not a success at first, but then I got better through time. At launch, when Jedi Fallen Order started, no complaints. Like there were no complaints about the game, like that were just like, this could be better, this could be better. It was like nonstop, like amazing. And I can even imagine what that hyped them up to do for the second game. I'm really curious of what they will do, and maybe we'll see more familiar faces. Yeah.
Yeah, so I
That's
think
all of it.
this morning or the morning before, they did like a toy review on a Good Morning America, and people are thinking this is actually the first Obi-Wan Kenobi merch right here. And it's a picture. I mean, it's hardly anything really, but I mean,
I heard about that. Yeah,
they're saying like his shirt, it matches one of the pictures. It matches what I think he's wearing on the poster, that type of shirt. So, and they did introduce it as a brand new Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber, and this is
His beard looks
art.
weird.
Weird beard. Yeah.
Well, look, like on the right side of his face, like half of his beard looks like it's cut off because of the angle that he's looking at.
Yeah.
I think it's fun. There's not very much gray in it, though. I'm a little surprised. I mean, he 10 years after, I guess he won't be graying yet, but
Right.
I wouldn't mind him having a little salt in there.
Well, right, but at the same time, you also have to think about like what ages him. I really hope that they talk about like what really ages him. Because of you're right. He doesn't look, and from the image he doesn't look that older either. So I'm curious of like by the end of the show, like he'll be like so like stressed out because you need to think about how much this man has been through. Like
he thinks his best friend's dead, and then
Yeah.
realizes it's not, and then he realizes all of this is his fault. Basically,
yeah.
he could have just killed him properly, and then would have stopped so much. But
Like,
I think
oh my god,
it's going to be a lot for him to kind of process, and I'd love to see that on the show. So
I
it's
am
very
going to
interesting
be,
to see.
dude. I'm going to be so happy, but I'm going to be so sad to see him deal with everything that he went through, like because of I was being passionate about that about the lightsaber fight, between Anakin and Obi-Wan, but something that I would love to see is maybe like a different angle of the fight that we that didn't make it into the film, because we did see that scene in the Book of Boba Fett where young Boba does pick up the helmet of Jango, but it's like a different angle that we'd never seen before. So maybe do that for that fight on Mustafar, but like a different angle that that we've never seen. I think that would be really cool. But him dealing with all that and all that stress and Order 66 and just everything, just him having nightmares and kind of dealing with every normal day life, and then something happens where he has to leave planet and go on this adventure. I think it's going to be really, really cool, and I think it's going to blow something. I think it's going to blow fans away. Like I really, really do. And it's going to be the darkest Star Wars that we've ever seen, because this is the prime time of the Empire. 10 years into the Empire. So.
Yeah. Emo boy stories are my favorite. And that's why Batman's my favorite DC character, and just him being sad and dealing with a bunch of drama, like it's gonna make me love the show for sure.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing from all the rumors, I hear that Moses Ingram's character, they're really, really like hyped and satisfied with her acting and her just overall portrayal of what she's doing. So yeah, that's and that's from Making Star Wars, actually, which I trust them over pretty much anyone that comes out with rumors and just general kind of info about stuff that hasn't been released yet.
Something else that a lot of people aren't talking about is that during this time, Darth Maul is still alive. He
I
is
don't
still
think
alive.
that he's gonna be in Kenobi unless it's like
No.
There. I don't think.
Okay, so there's still a chance that that he might show up. And how cool would it be if maybe like it's misleading right now, and the reason why Darth Maul isn't part of like any of the promotional stuff or anything because it's like a big moment, and we see maybe when like Vader and like Obi-Wan are fighting, and then Darth Maul shows up, and they have like a 3 fight, and Darth Maul and Vader and Obi-Wan are fighting. It's just complete chaos because of Maul. Well, actually, shoot. You know what? No,
you're dreaming, bro. You're going too far.
No,
I don't think that's gonna happen.
well, you're right. No, I am because I just realized that in Rebels, Darth Maul actually doesn't know Obi-Wan's alive until Ezra and Maul actually like combine their holocrons, and then he's like, "Oh my gosh, he's alive, he lives," and then he gets obsessed with finding Obi-Wan on Tatooine. So actually, never mind. So everything I just said, forget about it.
How many years before A New Hope does Maul
2
die?
2.
Okay.
Yeah. Around 2 years. Yeah.
All right.
Sweet.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, that would have been cool because I was like, if like Darth Maul showed up, that would have been sick. But now it doesn't make sense because unless they retcon that, but I really hope they don't, because of that fight that Darth Maul and Obi-Wan have later when he's an old guy and Darth Maul is old. It was like a really cool tribute to what kind of Star Wars is based off, which is like old samurai movies, and their whole fight was like a samurai fight. It was quick, and it was painful because of all the history and just in that split second of seeing Obi-Wan kind of going from his old classic Clone Wars pose to Qui-Gon's pose was like so cool to me. But yeah.
Well, speaking of bad guys being alive, this guy's alive for sure, and we got a quote from
I heard about
Ian
that.
McDermott, yeah. And he doesn't really, I mean, you listen to it and you kind of reread it, and it's like, yeah, of course, he's probably going to show up in Obi-Wan Kenobi, but there's been no leaks or anything in regards to him showing up. But his quote was, "I think I have to accept that, thanks to my ungrateful granddaughter, Rey Skywalker. My annihilation was finally final. But of course, Darth Vader is back in the new Obi-Wan Kenobi television series. So I suppose it's not impossible that one day his mentor might be discovered once again, skulking in the shadows."
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that makes it sound like he is in the show, but
he also came back and voiced him in Rebels as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you think back, it's like, how can he not be involved in the show? You got Vader. I mean, you got the time period where the Emperor is the Emperor, I mean, he's ruling over
everyone.
Don't
get why, because honestly, it would just hype us up more, but maybe they'll announce the rest of the cast, maybe when we're at Celebration, they're like, Liam Neeson, James Earl Jones, like all these actors that we already know that are going to be in it, because it's like, it wouldn't be Kenobi without them.
What do you think the mic drop event could be at Star Wars Celebration about Kenobi that would make everyone go nuts?
I don't know. I mean, I could see them being like in a flashback, Samuel L. Jackson's going to be in it. Like, I could totally see like that happening.
Him. I don't think Mace is going to make it.
I don't know, man. I don't know, because of he is in the Secret Invasion series on for Disney Plus. So it's like he's been campaigning to be back into Star Wars for years. So honestly, if he keeps doing Marvel, he could definitely come into Star Wars.
I don't know if Kenobi's a spot. That's all I'm saying. I think he probably would do another Star Wars project. I just don't foresee it being Kenobi, but I'm willing to be wrong.
There is so many opportunities for flashbacks, but I don't know.
The mic drop moment for me personally would be in that panel, be attending that panel, and then they're like, "Okay, we're going to show you episode 2 of Kenobi," and they just show it to us on the big screen.
I think that's going to happen. If they have the lottery system, I'm going to be, no, I hate it.
I'm going to get arrested for breaking in.
Something else I could see happening too is maybe Natalie Portman like shows back up in a flashback as Padme too. I think that would be like
Oh, we
That's a
got we
mic
got
drop,
the whole like Padme's like
yeah,
Padme, what is like double or like,
dude, how cool would it be?
and it's her again playing.
Oh,
Padme.
man.
That would be cool. I would like
How
that.
cool would it
That'd
be
funny.
if like Anakin was haunted by like Padme's ghost and just kind of like and that's what he like.
Ooh.
Oh, dude! Oh man! Oh man!
There's a lot of dark elements I think in the show that we're all very excited for.
Oh,
I
it's
could
gonna
see
be
them
so
doing
cool.
like what they did with Jean Grey in the Wolverine movie, where he just sees her in
Yeah.
a couple glimpses. I could see something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be haunted.
Something
through
on the
whole
lines
show.
of that, where like I mean, because of that happened in the comics a lot too. Of where like Vader would have nightmares, and then he would wake up from his back to tank, and stuff like that. And I could definitely see that. And as yes, it's the Kenobi series, but also Anakin was such a big part of Obi-Wan's life, so it makes sense why like the plot would also revolve around Anakin. And I want there to be a scene of where Vader's like, you know, in his prime and because of there's a comic that I talk about a lot, like the scene in the comic, which is so cool, which is where he's surrounded by rebels and like a bunch of mercenaries, and they're like, "Hey, surrender! We got you surrounded." And then he replies, "I'm the only people I see is dead men," and then he just kills everyone and just defeats all of them, and you're just like, this guy is crazy, man. Like, he's so powerful. And that's exactly what Vader was, like, of this tortured, torn in half, like of his soul in half, of what is right and what is wrong.
Like, well, awesome.
But yeah, and that's exactly what Anakin was, because if I remember walking out of Rogue One and people were like, you know, not talking about how cool it was. Like, the first thing that
Really?
popped out of their mouths was
It's just
how
the Vader
cool.
scene. It's the Vader scene.
Yeah. They're like,
It's
how
the Vader
cool was
scene,
it
boys.
seeing Vader just take down all of those rebels? And I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah.
I think we need to go. I think we need to go see more of Vader being
Oh,
like what he is in the comics, of just like
it's
being
just
being
darkness,
deadly.
man.
It's
Just
like
full
most
out
brutal,
darkness.
Like, whoa, yeah. We want to see that more of that in live action, and I definitely think that Rogue One is definitely one of those. Like, yeah, we'd love to see it.
There
See
should be a
more of
Vader
it.
series.
I was just thinking that. I was like, if the Kenobi like pops off, they could straight up do a Vader series. I don't see why not. I mean, there's plenty of untold stories, right?
Right. But the thing about that is that they already did that through the comics. So honestly,
So
it would just be
make the
different.
live action version of the comics, right?
Yeah, or just add to it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think they covered
I
every
mean,
single thing.
I mean, because of the whole Vader series is what honestly could have been like a TV show. Like, that is great about like that, like a bunch of these comic series is like, these definitely could have been like, you know, shows, and we never got it. I could see there are so many elements like of the comics and stuff of being brought into like canon, into live action, and that's what I would love to see. But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. And we are doing a lot more in the podcast as well. We're adding to our Patreon. We are doing Twitch now. That's exciting stuff. Please go follow us on Patreon at Star Wars Stuff Podcast 2187. Boom. And then we are on Twitch now. SW Stuff 77. Go follow us. We are playing Star Wars Battlefront 2, other old Star Wars games, just talking about Star Wars, having a good time. And then when the new Lego Star Wars comes out, we'll be doing some like play walkthrough on levels and all that stuff. Like, I'm so excited for that game. But yeah, and then please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. All of our links will be in the description below. We're on TikTok as well. We have a website.
You're doing great things.
I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything. David Anderson, help me out.
Yeah,
TikTok,
Patreon.
Patreon.
Yeah, Josh and Colin are doing more stuff on Patreon. You can always contact us, StarWarsStuffPodcast@gmail.com. Tell us what you want to see. Tell us what you want us to talk about. Also, go to Spotify and Apple and give us a 5-star review. That'd be great. And also watch us on YouTube. Subscribe to us. Give
And
us a
go
like as
follow.
well.
And go
We are
follow
definitely
our
everywhere.
sister podcast, the Marvel
Hey,
Stuff
I was just
Podcast.
gonna say, give Marvel Stuff Podcast a shout out. We'd love to have you guys over there, and then I do radioactive paper cuts on Tuesday. So check that out as well.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, we the Marvel Stuff Podcast is really cool, guys. Like, if you love what we talk about over here, we kind of brought that element over to the Marvel stuff where it's, it's like this, but it's Marvel. So go check them out. Coach is great. Josh Kennedy from Facebook is great. And and if you love Ray, she's over there too. So we love you all. We would not be doing any of this if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you so much. Believe that's everything, right? Am I wrong? Is there something? # Max Rebo lives. May the force be with you always.